The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Great crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and addressed them. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and his mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you, wishing to construct a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, "This one began to build but did not have the resources to finish." Or what king marches into battle would not first sit down and decide whether with 10,000 troops he can successfully oppose another king advancing upon him with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. The Gospel of the Lord. I just want you to picture this scene. This new itinerant preacher roaming around the towns of Galilee is followed by great crowds. Great crowds are traveling with Jesus, it says. It's a festive crowd. They're enjoying themselves. They're following him everywhere and are wrapped around every one of his words. So what does he do about it? He tells them the truth. It's scary when you listen to this. And when you listen to this beginning of his ministry, great crowds are traveling with him. You have to sit back and ask yourself, how many were there at the end? How many were at the foot of the cross with Jesus when he was crucified? Were there great crowds supporting him? No. There was a handful of people. What happened between the great crowds and the handful of people? Throughout his entire ministry, this was one of the messages. And basically what he is saying here is you must put God first. He's not saying you have to hate your mother and father. He said you have to put God above everything and pick up your cross and follow him. And people in those days and people in this day are not eager to pick up their cross. Now, I think it's one of the interesting timing, that this gospel is set today when Mother Teresa has been canonized. About an hour ago, Pope Francis canonized Teresa of Calcutta as the newest saint. Because this brings this whole gospel right to us. Mother Teresa walked among us. She lived in our time. She was visible and could be touched and seen by millions upon millions upon millions. And what did she do? She picked up her cross and carried it. She started out as a teaching nun, an order of teaching sisters in Ireland, and she was teaching. And then she felt the call to do even more. And she went to Bombay, one of the poorest cities, and went to the poorest section of it and began to take care of the sick. Thankless, dirty, miserable job she chose for herself. And she fought and she struggled and she created an order of sisters, the missionaries of charity, who will continue her work forever, we hope. She had her priorities straight. There's a story that once she was there cleaning out the wounds of one of the sick people, and a businessman who happened to be visiting her saw this and said, "I wouldn't do that for $1 million." And she said, "Neither would I. I do it for the Lord." Now, this is a woman who knew her priorities. She knew that she had to put God first. And it's not some 5th century monk or some obscure father of the church. This is someone we all had experience with. If you listen to Bishop MacDonald, he has incredible stories that are meeting her. Prior to coming to Springfield, he was a bishop in New York City and was in charge of all the real estate down there, the diocesan real estate. And Mother Teresa spent a lot of time building convents in New York City, so the bishop got involved with her often. Many of us have been at masses where Mother Teresa was there. She toured the Pioneer Valley in 1989. So we can't say that it's impossible. She did it. And she did it in a way that we could all see. And now this gospel is aimed at us. Are we willing to put God first? Are we willing to pick up our cross and follow Him? Or are we part of the merry men who followed Him in the beginning, but then faded when we found out the cost? It's a decision we have to make every day. Every single day we have to make a commitment to the Lord as number one. We are going to live and shape our lives the way we know He wants us to. We are going to reach out to the others, to the poorest of the poor, and do what we can for them. We don't have to go to Bombay, Calcutta, whatever it is. We can find things to do right here in Westfield. Because even Mother Teresa said, Calcutta is everywhere. It's a great opportunity with this gospel and with all the news you're going to hear today about Mother Teresa to really reflect on this, to really make a judgment by yourself, of yourself, about whether you are willing to pick up your cross and follow Him. This gospel is certainly calling us. Any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. Do you want to be a disciple of Christ?